everyone, so I wanted to talk about the episode and talk about a couple of things that I want to go more in depth with, because I have a lot of thoughts about episode 2, and so I just kind of wanted to make this more of a discussion video talking about episode 2, and yeah, just some things that I want to get into here. So before any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. I'll be doing a lot of stuff tomorrow. Honestly, I have a couple of ideas that I do want to get into tomorrow, as well as my Q&A. So I already posted the question asking for some questions and whatnot for the Q&A on Wednesday, so if you do want to take part in that Q&A, definitely go and join the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. There is a link in the description of this video. If you join there, there's a Q&A channel, and so you can post your question there. So I already asked for some questions, and yeah, I'll get to recording that on Wednesday, and that'll be out then. So, and the Q&A is going to be on episode 2 and episode 3. So this episode here is really great, and I've been seeing a lot of awesome reviews from a lot of you guys actually just really enjoying the episode, saying that you're actually excited to see what's to come with the story here, and so I'm definitely feeling the same way. I would say I'm excited about every element of this story. All of the characters are awesome. There isn't a character I don't like the villain who is the king, right? King Torres. I don't know too much about the character. He was just kind of there. He said a few things. I think in episode 3 is going to be a lot more terrifying just based off the trailer, but that's really it. Like, obviously their community does horrible things by taking people and you know, just for supplies and all that kind of stuff, like absolutely horrible. But it's something that, like, at this point, we haven't seen it actually happen, where he left and we don't know where he's going in the other community. We haven't seen a lot of scenes with him yet. So I think that, you know, this villain has potential to be one of the best villains we've had in a while, because he does seem to be someone that you're just not going to like. And I mean that in a good way, because he just seems very, very serious. And I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Like, maybe we actually learn a lot more about the character in season 4, where there's a backstory to the character, right? Or maybe he's not necessarily the villain of season 4 and it's a different group, right? Like, we'll have to wait and see where this is going here, because there is that group from the very first episode of season 3 here. And I don't think that group is connected to this one. Maybe, but I don't think so. I think that that group, honestly, could be a separate group. We'll have to wait and see, but that's kind of my suspicion right now, is that that group is something entirely different that we're going to see a lot of, I think, at some point later this season, and then maybe that's more of a season 4 thing, right? So yeah, I think that everyone for the most part is going to be on the same page with the story, because there's just a lot of things here that's like, you know, obviously you're not going to stand for this or that, or just like, you know, any of it. And so, you know, you see a lot of scenes here, and I do want to talk about this. So Carol in this scene here was just absolutely like, oh man, like, I could not believe that she was saying what she was saying here. Obviously, we're all pretty much for the most part, you know, agreeing with Carol. I think you should agree with Carol. And it's just crazy to see Carol be that confident and say those things in a situation like that. Daryl, I think, sensed that something was wrong here. Obviously, he could sense the tension here in the table. And I think that everyone was just like, why are you saying all these things? And I know that everyone, for the most part, believes what she's saying. And I do think Fede honestly is on Carol's side, but I do think he is also like, well, what am I supposed to do here, right? Like, I am doing all these things to protect everyone, and this is just sort of how it works. And I do think that he was being a lot more nicer in the scene because the king was there, right? And I don't think that he would be acting the same way if this was like, you know, I guess the king wasn't there or whatever. So yeah, really crazy scene to see here. And Carol was just absolutely incredible. I wonder if there's something bad, you know, for her coming because of this. Like, if the king was just like, no, like, she can't do that, this and that. And I wonder if something bad will come from it. Like the fact that she even questioned that. I know that they're like outsiders and all of that. And that was also one interesting thing here that I liked in this episode. The king here, he actually, like, he doesn't really have, first of all, a lot of dialogue in this episode, but he does ask at one point, what's news of the outside world? And so he's asking Daryl and Carol, like, what's going on in America? Because I guess, yeah, I mean, a lot of people in Spain here would just be sort of knowing what happened in Spain, maybe, you know, a couple of countries around them, but for the most part, they're not going to know what's going on in America or anything like that. And that's the thing. That's what I find so interesting about the apocalypse. And like, you know, we're 15 years in right now, but like, I want more questions like this. Like, what's going on over there? I know that we know the answers, but if you're some of these characters here, you're wondering what's happening everywhere else in the world. And now we know what's happening with France and with Spain, right? And obviously with London, I mean, nothing is there anymore. So that's actually a really interesting, I feel like, spin-off idea. If there's going to be an original series, maybe do an original series set in London. I think it would be really cool to see the apocalypse happen there. what the military did and everything. And I think that there is a story there that could be 4 or 5 seasons, an original story that I think could be really good. Honestly, I think that could be a really awesome story because a lot of people seem to really like that story. And yeah, I think that would be a really awesome story to see. And so, yeah, a lot more questions like this. It was kind of cool to see. I mean, he is a leader, right? So he's going to be wondering, like, what is going on in America and the rest of the world? Like, is there, a place that might be normal? And that's the crazy thing is like, is there a place out there in the world that is just completely normal? Like, obviously in the States, there kind of is a little bit, like the CRM, like the city, I guess. It's not a community, right? It would be a city, is for the most part very, very protected. But then there's the whole question about resources and all that. And I mean, that could be a whole discussion. So I won't get into that here, but I just really liked this scene here. I thought that it was really incredible. And also, I will say with pause, because I didn't actually talk about her story too much here. Her partner went, I guess, before, I don't know when that was, a couple of years ago. And I don't think it was in this community. It seems like Paz was sort of traveling around Spain. And then at some point, she ended up in this community here. And so that's where she sees her partner, I guess, from a long time ago, where yeah, she came here and obviously they recognized each other. I do think that that's going to be a big part of the story here for the season. And I mean, does Paz die at some point because of it? I don't think so. I think that honestly, she's going to be a character that does survive this season. And I mean, I don't know. That's the thing with this show and with, really all the spinoffs, the deaths for all the characters that aren't like, the main characters are really unpredictable. On The Walking Dead, it was pretty predictable for the most part because you knew that it was based off of the comics and we all expected a character to die at some point because, oh, this moment's happening. Sometimes it would be more like, well, maybe this character will get this comic death, right? Or it won't be like the character that dies in the comic kind of thing. So yeah, I will say Paz is a really awesome character and I think that she has a lot of similarities to Daryl, I think. For the most part, in terms of personalities and stuff like that, she seems to really just be on her own. And yeah, she's very capable to survive out there. So I would say that she's very similar to Daryl. And I think that both of the characters honestly will work together at some point this season. I also think that the storyline with Antonio, so I didn't get to talk about Antonio too much in my review, but Antonio, I think he's an interesting character. He definitely is very different from Fede, where I feel like Antonio is just like, he knows it's all messed up and he's very open about it. He'll talk about it. Like he knows it's all messed up, but he mostly just wants to keep his son safe. That's really all he cares about, just keeping his son safe. And obviously there's a connection that is starting here with Carol. I think when Daryl goes out there, a lot of what we're going to see in episode 2 is, or not episode 2, but episode 3 is Carol and Antonio, I guess, bonding over, I don't know if they're watching a movie or just whatever, but it's going to be that, and Antonio, obviously, he wants to keep his son safe, but I think that's the thing. I can kind of see it with all of these characters. Like if I could give a prediction right now, they're using episode 3 to set up a lot of stuff about Antonio and sort of, that connection between him and Carol and, maybe how they view parenting. And so Antonio, I think, is going to be so protective and he's never lost anyone, or at least maybe, Roberto had a sibling at some point, but I do think that Carol will obviously talk about Sophia and a lot of that. So I think that will come up at some point there. And when Justina, and that's my prediction, is that Justina is going to get taken away, Roberto could die at some point in the next couple of episodes. I think it's going to take a bit, obviously, because I don't think it's going to happen right away. But I do think that he is going to die probably, episode 4 or 5, 6, somewhere around there. And I think that Antonio's story will get really interesting at that point because they're really building up a lot of, I guess, Carol's experiences and what she went through. And, maybe Antonio's going to teach her a lot. And then maybe at that point, that's where Carol can, teach him a lot about mourning a loss like that. Right. So I think Antonio's a really interesting, cool character. He's not really in it so much right now, but I think he will get a lot more screen time. And he's really cool. Like, I just think that the character is very cool, chill, and like relaxed. And like Daryl honestly got along with him really well. They seem to pretty much see eye to eye on everything. So yeah, a lot of that was really cool. Actually, I really like the line where Daryl says, well, maybe your dad's just old enough to sort of know that that's not all that matters. And Roberto did not like that. And he kind of stormed off. So I laughed at that, but I was like, that's actually a really good point because, Roberto, he just cares about Justina. And it's just like this whole thing with those characters. And like when you're young, that's like the most important thing in the world. But when you're older, things are different. But there's also the question of like, well, maybe that should be more important, right? Like maybe life has been so hard. You've been struggling with this and that, throughout the apocalypse, that you've forgotten to really focus on things like that, things that could actually make you really happy. And so, maybe Antonio has to discover that himself. Like, these are just some random thoughts I'm having throughout, the episode, because there's just a lot of stuff that I didn't get to talk about in my review here, but I do think that that's sort of how a lot of this is connecting here. I do think that Roberto is likely going to die this season. Justina, I think, will leave to El Alcazar, I believe is the community's name. I think she will be saved by Daryl, because I just remember that when they first promoted season 3, there was that one shot of Justina on the back of Daryl's bike. And I'm like, when did that take place? Because obviously probably later on, right? I feel like it's going to be around episodes 5, 6, and 7, somewhere around there. Probably not the finale, I don't think. I think Justina will survive the season, because I think that she will be there for the 4th season. Honestly, it's really hard for me to stay away from spoilers for the 4th season. Like, I've seen a couple of things, but like nothing crazy spoiler or anything like that, so I'm happy. But it is just really hard to avoid a lot of that, because they're filming like right in the open. So, obviously a lot of photos are taken, and then just randomly, when you're on Twitter or X, it's just like, a photo will be right there, and you're like, oh, I didn't want to see that, right? But anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.